me turn that off. Pause, mute. Okay, so obviously it's a bit of a mess now. You can see even the format's different now, the layout, because I switched back. I'm using an older version of my broadcasting stuff, and we'll see if maybe that fixes everything or not, you know? We can do the best we can do, whatever, see if it works. If not, that's our last try, so we'll see if it works. Yeah, obviously the time's way off because it was meant to be from 4 to 5, but I'm just gonna do it anyway because whatever, gotta try. So I think my internet is actually still bad, judging from how it's flashing over there. So that's not great. I think the problem before was computer and mouse. The problem currently is actually internet, and it just seems to be a spectrum thing, and I can't seem to get it working. But I will try to just quickly, I will try to do some stuff. We'll see if it works. If not, it's not a big deal. I will just post it by tomorrow. I'll post it tomorrow, a YouTube video with all the content, because I already prepared the content, what I want to talk about. So it's just a matter of putting it together, which isn't a big deal. But if not, I'll just stream a little bit for now. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It's not the end of the world. This will just be one last try. So real quickly, it's crashing. It's kind of crashing. It's almost crashing. Slightly crashing. I can see it in the corner of my eye, like dropping frames and turning red, like a little red light. And there's nothing I can do about it. It's no fun. Anyway, I'm going to quickly draw a couple quick little gun handles, and we'll see if I can finish any before the time runs out. It might not. I don't think we're destined to have a decent stream today. I just don't see it happening with the way things are going. But as I mentioned, it's just good to basically plan this stuff out, plan out where the trigger goes in relationship to the handle. And we'll just do a couple quick ones. One will be more of a rifle, and one will be more of a just pistol grip. So on this side, more of a rifle grip, and on the other side, more of a pistol grip. And yeah, we don't have to make it fancy for now. We're just kind of laying in the bare bones. What if you turn off the video of your face? It shouldn't actually make a difference. The stuff, it's uploading pixels, to the internet. It doesn't actually matter what those pixels are. The camera is not affecting the internet at all. Anyway, so I could even look up some reference if I wanted. That would be the ideal way, and that's how I recommend you do it. Just look up some references of guns. I have a couple I can look at if I want to, and there's usually a little bit of an angle to the handle. Sometimes there's like a little bit of a little notch in there to let you space out fingers. And there's always, once again, the important part is if it does have a pistol grip, that there's some kind of protection for your finger, for your thumb, and that the trigger is somewhat in line with that. So we can do a couple like that. That's fine. We can have the trigger do all kinds of stuff. Or we can do something, there's a lot of good different variations. I like the turn of the century. So you have like more of the weird broom handle approaches that you'll see in like some various European German, Italian, I think, guns. Well, they have like a broom handle, and there's actually the difference is on these ones you're actually um, loading your bullets from inside the handle, so it needs to have an amount of space in there. For these ones, it's not loading the bullets from inside the handle. The handle's just there for comfort, for grip. So you can have any kind of different shape in there. You can have a little bit of that. And generally then the bullets will be loaded more so in the front or something. But we don't have to worry about that. We're just focused more so on the functionality of holding it, even more so than any aspect of how it actually functions even. It's more important to just have that little aspect of it there. Anyway, so we got a few. They're very crappy here. That's fine. We're just trying to rush through this so it doesn't crash again. What I want to do now is I want to select some of these. Let's see, which one of these is the least offensive? Maybe let me do one like this one. We only care about this chunk of it in here. Let's try copy pasting that. All right, we got that one. And let's select. Well, let's try this one. We'll do this one. Actually, we'll do a few of them. Oops, that is the wrong part. This one, we'll copy paste that one. That one will go somewhere. And then lastly, we'll copy and paste maybe one of this one, just real quickly. And obviously, if you were doing it properly, you would be spending more time on your reference. Don't be afraid. It might crash, but it's not a big deal. The internet is extremely bad right now. Blame Spectrum. Even if it crashes, though, all of the content will get packaged and uploaded, so don't worry about it. All right, so I have these three over here. I'm gonna actually lay them out a little bit nicer. So this one can be on the bottom. This one can be, let's put it at the top. I'll have this one, oops, wrong one. This one will be in here somewhere. And we actually need to make them all smaller because we're gonna be adding to them. So free transform, just a whole bunch smaller. It doesn't really matter. We're gonna be designing on top of them, make them nice and small. This one also, free transform, make it nice and tiny. And finally, the last one, edit, free transform, nice and tiny. All right. So when it comes to, we can actually divide this whole process up. When it comes to this gun stuff, oops, let me open a new layer. I can have this, I have white selected. Okay, that section over there, that's just those, and then we're gonna have two more sections. So this is your VizLib part. You should be doing these studies. And if you really feel comfortable, like you've done enough studies, obviously I didn't actually base these on anything. I was just doing them from imagination because I'm so cool like that I just can do that. No, that's actually why they don't look as good as they could. Ideally, yes, definitely use reference for this part, this step especially. But I'm not using reference because I'm a big dumb baby and I'm afraid to touch anything on my computer. So I'm just gonna do them from imagination. But I think that's roughly good. This one will have that round guard, that one, yeah. So there are little things you would find in the reference that would be very valuable. So like on the handle, maybe like a little screw or something, because usually these are like wood on top of metal. So you'd have like a little screw, and then this wooden part would have a cutout or something. And this part would be metal, and it'd have a metal frame going through here that this part would be screwed onto. For this part, yeah, maybe there's like some kind of little extra notch in there. Maybe there's a little notch here. Maybe there's some filigree elements around on how this trigger part is attached. There's a lot of just little tiny things that might make it more believable. And remember the thing about the wheels on the car. Getting some nice little density of details and believability in this part can go a long way for the overall gun. So yeah, for this part, you know, you can have some kind of different. Well, I actually want to leave this one pretty simple, but you could have like little functional stuff up here, safety, just kind of little details like that, and that would be fine. But anyway, I think I made those on separate layers now. I'm going to merge these all together and collapse. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take these, copy them all, copy them all, paste them, and we'll move them over here. Actually, let's just move them. Yeah, this is fine, actually. We'll move them right here. I actually kind of want to make them smaller even. Or I can just get rid of this white line, because this white line is actually what's hurting me a little bit. All right. Move them there. Let's try one more set. All right. And these ones we'll definitely make smaller. Because we want more real estate to play with. Okay. So what you do now that you have this here, never seen you like before. Yeah, I'm trying not to get too distracted by the chat. Just the chat, just because obviously this thing's been crashing like crazy, so I don't even want to jinx it at all. But this part, let's actually just highlight it in red, because this is our key thing. We're just gonna add a little bit of a flat color base just on here, just to make it very readable, just so we don't lose track of this part. This part is our anchor point. We want to make sure our anchor point reads extremely well. Yeah, I'm sorry if you weren't here for the first part of this talk, which was an hour ago, then you might be a little confused, but don't worry. Anchor points are just the parts of the design that give you a base in the function, and they ground everything in reality. So I'm gonna just go around, make these very quickly. These are all of our anchor points, and we have those here. That's great. That's all we need. Doesn't need to be anything fancy. Something like that. Now what we can do is we can just design some stuff. Question, you said the anchor point for humans is balance, but then you wouldn't say balance is the anchor point of all things. It can be to some extent. It's more so that when I said character design, I was thinking about gesture, because it's either going to be faces, if it's like the character, that's the place you want to detail. If it's more so a close-up, like a finished character. But if you're just making little thumbnails, gestures, then balance is the only thing that needs to be like spot on in order for you to get away with craziness. Because the only point of an anchor point is to ground the viewer so you can get away with the nonsense, the wildness of the design, the part they've never seen before. Because about all concept artists, the goal is to expand the collective visual knowledge of everyone. So you're creating something new, and in order to get people to believe in your something new, you just need to be able to ground them in something familiar. So let's make some shapes. Now, what I like to do is obviously focus on simple shape appeal. You may have seen the video on shape appeal where I talk about, oh, what's a good shape? Something simple. Simple shapes are good. Shapes with direction are good. I also, in that video, talked about the importance of flat shapes on the front of a gun, because shapes are all about, once again, creating some sense of flow and direction, but having a flat part and a 90 degree, especially, actually, let's just make it 90 degree on both sides. That's really impactful. 90 degree angles stop your flow of vision as it goes forward. So it makes a clearly defined impact on the front. That's why if you want to create a gun that feels very impactful, very heavy, very like it's really gonna, you know, put out a lot of force, you want to make sure that the front is very flat and it has some 90 degrees on it. That creates that feeling. If you wanted to say make a gun that feels very harmless, then maybe avoid having a 90-degree angle on the front. Maybe it can be round. It can be a little bubble shooting gun. It doesn't matter. A little ray gun. It doesn't need to feel like that. Can even just a slight amount of angling will make it feel just a little bit less harmful. Just a little bit. Just like bringing forth an angle like that. This feels more like a taser or a stun gun just because of this slight 45-degree angle here. There's a lot of subtlety in how we can perceive angles and shapes. Shapes mean a lot of different things. So anyway, we can make a simple gun. We can make it, just box shapes. We can just play around with all of these just as box shapes and see what works. We can make the box wherever we want. We can connect the box. The important part, there needs to be a negative space here for the hand to actually fit in there. So you can't make something that comes up like this. That won't make sense. The hand will not fit in there. You're breaking the value of the anchor point. But you can get away with certain aspects of it. So for instance, we could make a cutaway in there, and if it's large enough for us to kind of have imply that a hand could fit in there, then we could probably use it, and we can probably make something that works with that. And once again, these don't have to be super complicated. Simple is good. We like to design from a place of simplicity, whatever it may be. That's a little bit, I don't know, could say it's a little bit strange, that design. I'm not like the biggest fan of it, but it kind of works. This one, same thing. We can just play around with big shapes. We can tack these shapes on top of it. This is like a, it's kind of starts looking like Reaper's gun or something. There's a lot of guns in sci-fi that kind of have that vibe. So you can do some shapes in there. You can imply, oops, keep moving stuff on accident. You can even imply that maybe this part comes back and has some, like a little stock on the back. Because on this one, the hand just needs to go around from the top part. So it's fine if this part is blocked off. Obviously, most rifle stocks are kind of blocked off in the back like that. For this one, same thing. We want to just get a little bit of whatever we want to try. We can just kind of have fun with it, make some weird shapes, get a little more experimental with them, quick ideas, see what works. We can make it this one's kind of shorter. We can make this one kind of more longer. Oh, I guess the middle one's kind of long, but how about longer, maybe narrower, whatever it may be. Question, if you had a lot of sharp, hard angles at the right side, does that make the gun feel even more dangerous? When you say sharp angles, do you mean like pointy angles? Because then I would say it's tricky. It could theoretically, but the problem is we associate that with like knives and blades. There's something like big and impactful about a giant stop. Like if all of the mass of something is coming to a giant stop, that's just 90-degree angles, it feels very impactful. If everything's coming to, obviously, in order to get to a point or something much sharper, like a thinner angle, it needs to have these kind of flowing shapes, and it's just kind of diminishing. It's creating a lot of forward movement. Oh, sorry, the internet. I don't think it's okay. I don't think it's crashed yet. We're getting some slowdown here and there. That's just from the stream. It'll come back. I'll let it come back. Give it a second. It's just struggling. Come on, speed up. I just need a little bit more. Just get up like another megabyte higher. Just need a little bit more. Just come on, internet. Give us something, Spectrum, just a little bit of gas. It's locked me under 1 MB right now. It's hovering. Oh wait, 1.5. I got above for a second there. It's almost back. Give it a moment. It's getting a little higher. We got like 2 MB now. It might be working. It's almost back. Give it a moment. It's getting a little higher. We got like 2 MB now. It might be working. It might be sending in some. So this is actually a giant handle. I want to make this smaller. Just a little bit on the wide side. And I kind of had to crush it in here, so it's a little inconvenient. Well, whatever. It's fine. Anyway. All right. What should I do? Okay. It's getting a little higher right now. Okay. I think it's back to green. We're getting back up there. So I think you guys might be hearing this again. Anyway, so let's carry forward just a little bit, see how much we can get in here. So we like to always start designs with really basic shapes. Basic shapes. The more basic, in my opinion, the better. We're looking for nice, clean silhouette reads, so we can do all kinds of fun stuff. I always like these ones that are more just chunky and big like this. I think it's kind of fun. The other thing we're looking for, by the way, is big, medium, small. So I mentioned at the start that we do care about hierarchies and all that stuff. You've seen my video on big, medium, small. Um, in a lot of situations, the handle in this part could be considered the medium part. Sometimes it's a little bit on the smaller side, like in this one. I would say in this middle one, this is actually a small part, and then we have a medium part, and then a big part. But in this one, I would say it's the medium part, and then some of the kind of functional stuff, the hammer and everything, that's actually the small part, and then the big part. So we like to kind of make sure there's a balance out there, that it's kind of feels like there should be a little bit of a hierarchy going on. So let's see. Where's my... Oh, I messed it up. That's fine. I don't have my little resources open, but I don't need them. So anyway, I could just keep making shapes. It's kind of like you can just make spaceships on top of this stuff, and maybe you'll come up with some interesting stuff, or maybe you won't. The key thing that I like to try, though, is definitely to have the shapes more so interact with the handle in interesting ways. So doing weird stuff like this, I think that makes it a little bit fun, because you're kind of interacting with this shape. You don't just have to stick something on top like with this one. You can stick different boxy shapes like around the whole thing in unique different ways. Sometimes those can be a lot more fun. So, you can have things like this where it turns into like a weird micro pistol thing, submachine gun, I don't even know. You can kind of have a lot of fun with that. And also, let's see, in this one, how can we can maybe have a cut in for the hand. That, I'm trying to imagine how this would work. I think theoretically, I'm trying to mention or imagine the ergonomics. I feel like you might be able to have something that kind of cuts in like that, and then forms out a simple boxy shape along the top. Oops. And then comes back this way. Once again. So you can make everything super boxy. I guess we don't have to make it that boxy. That's a little on the extreme side. We're getting a little too carried away with our boxiness. But you could theoretically also, get into a little bit more design shapes and actually have barrels that are more so sticking out than anything else. I kind of like going for this sci-fi vibe, though, so let me just try one more with this thing that's just a little bit boxier. We do need something in the front. There does need to be a place for bullets to go into it. So I don't know if this would even be functional as a way to hold it. Maybe we're getting too weird. We could just have one that just has a handle here, like our cursed. Dare I mention the name George Washington? Could just have one that's just kind of has something in the back like that. And then just does some interesting shapes in the front. Maybe it has some kind of under part. Maybe we get away from the flatness. Maybe this one's not as impactful. It's more like of a lighter weapon. And that can be fine as well. Summoned him. I summoned him. It's all up to me now. All right. To go back to this other layer, let's just mash some. Oops. Oh, I made that on the wrong layer. Let's just mash some color in here so we can see where the different parts are and where they actually function with each other. Just makes it a little bit nicer to see the silhouette that you're creating with these objects. Then you can look at them as silhouettes and decide what's interesting and what's not. But you can see how you can use that same anchor point in so many different ways. You can use the same one and you can make probably 1,000 different guns out of it. And they'll all be kind of interesting and fun. I forgot to make them red on this part, so I can just do that real fast. a little bit of this, a little bit of that. All right, and this one in here. Boop. All right. So as long as you have that part of that anchor point look strong, I guarantee you can make a lot of fun designs. That's obviously the key thing that we're talking about overall. But there's a lot of ways to go then from this point, because obviously this is just your base. This is what you build upon. When it comes to actually filling out the rest of the design, then you start to get into a lot of different things that aren't just about the anchor point anymore. The anchor point is certainly what's going to carry your design into being a good looking design, a believable design. But once you get to this point where you're like, okay, I like this silhouette, I like that silhouette, I like this, that, then you can start to have a little bit of fun. Now, the biggest mistake a lot of people will make is the anchor point for a shoe. It's really just the fact that it has to fit a foot. Like, it just has to look like it fits around a foot. You can kind of try to logic your way into a lot of different things. But anyway, the key next step would be to start building up the form into something more interesting. And the most common mistake you'll see people make is they start to just add widgets and whatnot and shapes everywhere, especially when it comes to industrial stuff. They just want to add details and things everywhere. Just everything's got random things happening, and it just kind of gets chaotic and messy. So the key to detailing, to adding more to stuff, is to then look at even these shapes and make sure you focus on pockets of density and detail. Well, let's just say instead of density, we'll just say pockets of detail. So we have a little bit of a pocket already implied here. So we can just kind of carry that forth, maybe add some little bits of things going on in there. But we want to leave big amounts of just kind of open space. We want to have some aspect. We don't want things to cut through too much, too evenly, and just like detail everything, because that gets a little chaotic. We like to kind of try to find a way to carry forth just a little bit and still leave things relatively simple. We can have like a little bit of a detail as long as we're still kind of creating some hierarchy between shapes, still doing something mildly interesting with them. That's fine. We can have a little bit of that. You can even go forth and like add some small silhouette details as long as they're tiny and they don't overwhelm the overall thing. So the most common one you might see on a quick gun design might be some sights on the top. We can have some really tall sight that might get a little bit overwhelming. So you got to balance out all the proportions. I have this much real estate being manned, so I can probably get away with that. For this one, obviously, if I do something that's just a giant scope, it's not going to work that well. I can probably get away with about maybe that much real estate before it starts to overwhelm things. So keep that in mind. What can I get away with? What amount of real estate before it starts to become too much? And I would say this one, because we have the exposed hammer here, is still a bit much. Those are a bit repetitive. So I might even just not have a back part and just have a front part. Or I might just have the back part be, very minor, or do something simple like that. There's a lot of balancing going on. This one, yeah, we can just once again, just maybe a little bits of stuff. Little sight things are the most common thing you'll run into. We can have something on this one, or we don't even need anything. Maybe just a little notch right up there. So little tiny things like that could be enough. You can also start getting into functionality, such as like, okay, where's the ejection point? What does this thing fire? How does it fire stuff? And how does it eject whatever it's firing? And there's like a little, this one, we didn't put any details on the silhouette, so maybe it has like a little pin thing back here that you can pull back, release some kind of slide. Maybe you just put in like one little bullet at a time or something, just make something happen back there. Who knows how it works? just some weird nonsense. Obviously, I didn't plan it out because then it'd probably be hitting your arm or something. Who knows? So all that stuff needs to get factored in there. But the key thing, make sure you leave big amounts of just kind of space that doesn't get filled in with chaos. This could be some kind of weird, I don't even know what it could be. Well, it's a lot of fun to be had. But I like designing with this approach just because it's just very relaxing to me. There's a lot of things then you can even step forward. Maybe you have a design, maybe you even have like a cut line. You added something, maybe you add a secondary part, like a little top part on here. And that's your detail part. Obviously, you can throw on some screws in the corners. Who knows what this thing is? Maybe it has some logo on it or something. Some like branding. Some cool design. We don't want it to get too busy though. I created this sub shape, and even this sub shape needs to have a relative large amount of empty space going on. So we don't want to get too wild with it. Yeah, for the record, for YouTube, I'm basically going to have to redo certain parts and just kind of mash things out. Frankenstein together something that works. The interesting thing about all this stuff, once you like kind of process it, get a little bit deeper, let's actually take this one up here because I always have fun messing with designs like this. Oops, let's actually flatten these. That'll be great. I'm going to flatten everything. I don't like to have that many layers. I'm not a layer person. Collapse them all. And then we are going to create a brand new layer. Oops, I didn't mean to have that selected. Fill, there we go. Put this piece up here. And don't worry, I know I've been using up a lot of your time and there's a lot of fun stuff to watch today, so I don't want to waste too much. Just want to mention a couple minor things real fast. So you might have a gun there. And one of the fun things that I like to personally get into is just little tiny like detail and metalwork. It's kind of implied right here in some of this like chaos. But you can even have like maybe this whole trigger and handle, maybe it's got like little bits of inlays, little things like that. Maybe there's like, how can we make it nice and fun? Maybe this whole bottom part kind of has some flowy inlays to it. Actually, let's bring it all the way down here. That looks like a weird dog thing. There we go. Random filigree type stuff can be thrown in everywhere. Let's see what works. I don't like this hard break between the filigree and the handle. It should just be more flowing into it. So you can get away with stuff like that. Have some ornate details kind of mixed in. Let me see if I can still imply that this is all filled in. It's just kind of fun to design like that. And then also, in case you want to make things a little bit more techie, sci-fi, it's good to always practice your edge beveling all of your edges. Very useful thing to get very comfortable at doing. So anytime you have a bunch of edges, a bunch of different things, theoretically, it's going to look a little weird next to all this filigree nonsense, but you can like pretend that every edge has a little bit of a bevel to it if you want. It might not work as well in the front here because we just want this to be a little bit flatter, and having a beveled edge might take away from that just a little bit. So maybe for the sake of impact, we don't bevel the front edge. Maybe just make it like a giant flare gun or something. Then, of course, the question might become, okay, if this is some kind of giant flare gun, then how do we open it and like put a thing in it? Because we kind of built it up in a way where there's obviously not just going to shove an egg through here and then launch it out. That's not going to work good. Maybe we can really focus on some kind of functionality, like a little bit of a opening part. So maybe it folds down from some spot in here. Let's keep adding nonsense filigree, because that's always exciting. Maybe there's like some wings or something, some nonsense like that. And this whole thing can then open up at this line and kind of fold downward over here. And then you just shove a giant container of whatever in there and then fire it out the front. That would kind of make our filigree stuff feel a little more interesting. All right. So since we established so much filigree, I feel like the handle would probably have different, like an ivory inlay or something. And if there was gonna be like an ivory inlay, then you would need it to be bolted on with like little screws. Because once again, you know, just believability and all that stuff. Then you'd have like little tiny, then you can get into your material rendering and doing all that kind of stuff and making it extra fancy in there. Very single round Nerf gun indeed. This follows the big, medium, small design principle, right? I would say so. I would say obviously this big box is a very big, simple shape. And then this part's like a medium shape. And then some of this smaller stuff, it would just be considered, you know, like smaller shapes. Theoretically, this whole part can even be the big shape, but we want it to kind of separate down. So if we made this part a lot smaller, like let's say we made it like this, you could theoretically get away with this. And I'll even make it more and more small. You can get away with designing it like this, but it's not going to be nearly as visually interesting. It has a little bit, you can argue that this is still big, medium, small, because it is just a little bit, but it's kind of closer. It's kind of not as extreme. So this would be a very less memorable if you just need a gun for a background character. You can do something like this. It's not gonna be an iconic piece, but when you really push the big, medium, small into something like this, it becomes much more of an interesting kind of piece that people will get attached to. I guess theoretically, we can try to maybe make it even go bigger this way. Okay, there's a giant chunky part on the front. That's starting to get a little bit heavy with all this weight implied. So you got to be a little bit tricky with that. Usually I'd probably like make it a bigger thing that actually goes forward more and a little bit backward, just to make the weight balance just a little bit more extreme. So at least that way, this big piece is still more centered on the handle with everything. But anyway, yeah, a little bit of all that stuff. Important things. Once again, you can see how easy it is to get into detailing and just make it get overboard. That can be okay only if you keep your detailing limited in some smaller spaces. Even this is kind of pushing it. I would say this is it's certainly creeping up on the line of being too much. So if you started, obviously, if I just went in and started adding stuff everywhere, it would be a bit much. We still want to have some clarity. Oh no! The stream. It's crashing again. All right. All right. Well, anyway, I think it's crashing. I'm going to wrap it up once we get some internet. Okay, the internet came back a little bit. All right. Anyway, let's go to just a regular camera real fast. We're going way over time anyway, and I'm definitely not going past 6. So it's 6 o'clock now. Obviously, huge technical issues, just a giant mess. just a huge, giant mess of technical issues today, and that's unfortunate. But I will try to salvage stuff. I will try to make a video on this, and hopefully that will be fun as well. I do want to thank you all for at least helping me, sticking with me through this chaotic time. It's not working. It's horrible right now. But in case you can see this, I just want to say, yeah, thanks for helping out. Thanks for supporting things. We're gonna just wrap this up. You guys can go watch other stuff. We tried our best. This is going to be a design theory video. The name of the video on YouTube will just be like Lightbox 2020 and then Intro to Game Design, just like the title here. So you'll be able to see it on there. It'll just be under the Lightbox title. All right. So thank you all for watching. And yeah, sorry about all that, but it was fun. So I'll see you all in the near future. Go watch some other stuff. It'll be good. Good night, everyone.